It's a great strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this, for the record, this is a compliment to me.
Oh, please. I mean, I mean it as a compliment. It's a great thing. My God, the most interesting people I know in the world are ADHD.
This is Talk Easy. I'm Sam Fragoso. Welcome to the show. Kate Winslet, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How's your coffee? Is it all right?
Delicious. It has cream in, so I'm very happy.
Okay, you're pro cream.
So pro cream.
How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm very good.
You're putting this film out into the world. It's the first one you've directed. You shot it in February of this year.
In 35 days.
In 35 days.
Yeah.
It's December of this year.
Yeah.
So let's start with the film. As I understand it, for the last decade, whether it was on Mare of Easttown, The Regime, Lee, where you played famed war photographer Lee Miller, people on set would ask you every now and then, so Kate, when are you going to direct? Why was now the time?
Well, I mean, I've gotten kind of good at answering this question, and I realize that there are I've given lots of kind of reasons as to why now and why not before. But actually, I think a big part of the why not before, honestly, Sam, I think I was probably scared.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an automatic given thing that when you've been in front of the camera for 33 years that you're going to know automatically how to run an entire film set and not just work with the actors and craft performances with them, but to visually tell a story.
Making movies is hard.
It is really hard, and it's a completely different job. I think often people don't understand that, taking a credit as a producer is not just taking a credit. I mean, it certainly isn't for me. It is a completely different job. And as in the case of Lee and most certainly Goodbye June, it starts with the producer. That's the person who helps to develop the script alongside a writer. And then you go out for financing, and then you assemble an incredible crew and you put the whole thing together. It's a proper all chips into the middle, end-to-end experience. But being a director, it requires absolutely everything of oneself. Completely, emotionally, mentally, in every single way. And it also requires that you are a good leader and a kind leader, and that you are able to include everybody, not just the actors, but to make every single crew member feel seen and heard and elevated and appreciated. And that's huge. And I think before now, I think I was scared of judgment and scrutiny, because I think that there's often a lot of scrutiny placed on certainly actresses who become directors in a way that I think is different to our male counterparts.
Like when Bradley Cooper became a director.
Well, I just think there's a different set of words that are often used with us, different...
Oh, adjectives.
Different conversations will take place.
Okay, what are the
very,
adjectives?
very different. Well, let's take the word ambition, right? So when you describe a male actor who becomes a director and a producer and a writer and all of those things, and there is no criticism at all. But if you say, God, that's so ambitious, it's an exciting way that you would describe that actor, and it's a kind of a explosive, positive use of the word ambitious, right, or ambition. Okay, when you use the exact same word and you apply it to an actress, oh, she's ambitious. Oh, it's a slightly negative. The
thing is, you're such a good actor that when you deliver that, I'm convinced that it sounds like something's wrong.
Yeah.
But of course, there is nothing wrong with
No, I remember reading
ambition.
a review. There's nothing wrong with ambition at all, because actually ambition just means that you're determined and that you believe that you can see something through. I remember reading a review of Maggie Gyllenhaal's wonderful movie, Lost Daughter, and the review actually began like this. If anyone thought for 1 second that Maggie Gyllenhaal might not be able to direct, think again. the review actually started like that.
Yeah.
So
Deck already stacked against.
Already stacked against, scrutiny apportioned, judgment, flying. And it's just an example of how we are up against these little battles all of the time. But I also have to say that, and this really, I do mean this too, I simply wouldn't have been able to create the space in my life to have been able to have directed before now, because I've been raising a family since I was 25 years old. My daughter is now 25. My son Joe is about to turn 22. And my little guy just turned 12 yesterday. So there's there's just a little bit more easement in terms of the physical presence of being a mother in their space. And it's always been a tremendous juggle anyway, and one that I've embraced, raising a family and going to work as an actress. So doing the directing part and producing and acting part, because clearly one job isn't enough and I had to take on 3 like an idiot. But having a wonderful husband who's able to be really present has definitely made a huge difference.
You said in one interview that the longer you held off directing, the more and more you were disappointing women.
I did feel that way.
Why is that?
Well, because I think it matters to me how I walk through the world. It really matters. It matters that when I'm trying to elevate other women into first-time department heads, I'm trying to support people in doing their job to their fullest potential, but also making decisions to support people who perhaps doubted themselves. I've done that a lot as a producer on film sets, and I really appreciate being in that position.
Is that because you yourself were someone that doubted themselves?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. But also, I'm just a huge believer in everyone has to start somewhere. I mean, I'm literally like the most unlikely version to have become successful in this industry. I mean, grew up in a teeny tiny terraced house in Reading, a very crowded town, about 50 miles from London. My parents had absolutely no money. Like every conceivable reason for me to not have gotten into this industry was something I just lived with every single day. And I know that it was sheer will and determination that has resulted in me being here right now and being given very early opportunities by extraordinary people. And from that, my confidence grew and I learned and changed and I grew some more. And so I try and live my life like that as a creative and as a friend and a parent.
Well, I want to talk about your upbringing in a little bit, but speaking of family, the film is set around the holidays and is loosely and lightly inspired by the weeks leading up to your mother's passing in 2017. From a script written by your son, who is now 21, soon to be 22, and who at the time was only 13 when your mother passed away. And he said, quote, "I remember watching this happen, watching my mother and my aunt say goodbye and thinking how amazing it was that we got to do that as a family."
Has he now let me?
Okay, so this is June's room. She's very tired after the operation and still a bit drowsy. She's unlikely to remember everything you're saying, so best to keep things simple for now. There's a buzzer by her bed, and I'm just down the hall if you need me.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, mate. Thank you. June? Junie? Are you all right?
Oh, Bernard. I tried to get Bake off, and the lady said I should to press this button, and when I did it, it just went all black.
See what I can do. I can't make any promises.
Thanks, Bern.
Now, on the surface, this seems like a period or a subject that one would not want to run toward. And yet, in your directorial debut with your son, it was something it seems the two of you had to do.
Yeah. It did feel something like we had to do. So Joe was that COVID generation who in our country, they had a lot of their freedoms taken away, truly. And their first round of big important exams at school that they typically sit when they're 15, 16, they did not even sit those exams. So just learning how to kind of apply themselves to a project or a piece of work was something that they kind of missed out on, building those blocks of how to do that. So the fact that once he had left school, he had the confidence alone and the courage to just write a short film and apply to this heavily coveted screenwriting course at the National Film and Television School. We were all so proud of him that he had just done that. But he did this screenwriting course and he wrote this screenplay. And he didn't really tell me anything about it whilst he was writing it. And he handed it to me and he said, "Oh, look, could you read this? This is what I wrote." And I said, "Well, of course. Yeah, of course." I said, do you want me to be honest?" And he was like, "No, I don't. I want you to lie." I was like, "Okay, fine." Thinking, well, I'm obviously not going to lie.
Are you a good liar?
I don't tend to lie. But then acting is pretending. So I don't know. You decide. So I read his screenplay and it was clear to me that my son could write. He had done this thing. And I said, "Okay, so we're going to make this into a film." And he was like, "Don't do that thing. Just don't do that thing of trying to big me up." I just wanted to write it because it was the assignment we were set and I wanted to see if I could. And please, Mum, don't just stop. And I said, "No, we are gonna do it. Work on it some more and then we'll talk again." And because he had been present when my own mother passed away, and just geographically, logistically, how impossible it was that our very big family was able to all be there for her, it was quite remarkable. So he was inspired by that remarkable moment and how we were all there because we came from this one woman, and that in that moment, that was really all that mattered. And then quite quickly, as he grew up a little bit more, and yes, of course, he is still very young, but sharing stories about loss and the loss of a grandparent in his case, you learn quite quickly that for most people, the experience of loss is very, very complicated and is typically not celebratory or good. And so from the experience...
I think it's almost never.
Almost never.
That.
Exactly right. And I mean, I know so many people who've had terrible traumatic ends and haven't been there in huge family fights and disputes and very, very painful situations.
I know people who haven't gone to the funeral.
Well, absolutely. I know people who haven't even had funerals because they didn't know what to do. And it's distressing. But actually, Joe didn't want to write that version. He wanted to write about what had inspired him in how, because of how much this matriarch had loved her family throughout her life, and that had been her life, he wanted to write something that somewhat emulated that experience, although made it a fictional story about a fictional family and set it at Christmas time, which I thought was genius, actually. Just genius, because of course you have that inbuilt, that sense of a clock ticking as days go by, and that you're ramping towards this much anticipated event in the year being Christmas Day. But simultaneously, of course, alongside that, you have this family who are desperately trying to get to Christmas so they can give their mother her last Christmas. And I really did think that was just genius.
You've worked with a lot of incredible filmmakers. Peter Jackson on Heavenly Creatures, James Cameron on Titanic and Avatar, Michel Gondry on Eternal Sunshine, Steven Soderbergh, Danny Boyle, Jason Reitman. I realize now that's a lot of men. And your point earlier about the gender imbalance and women directors is well taken. But what kind of director were you on set? Were there any elements or lessons from those productions that you folded into Goodbye June?
I mean, I think I took, I was very supported by a great handful of these wonderful people who I've worked with, not just the men, but they're women as well. I worked with Jessica Hobbs, who's a brilliant director. She's a New Zealander, actually, based in the UK. I worked with her on The Regime. Jocelyn Morehouse, I worked with on The Dressmaker. I have had some experiences with women, but sadly, just not as many as men. And I have to say that what I have always been inspired by working alongside great directors is the sense of collaboration, including everybody, listening to everybody. And the best directors, honestly, are the ones who turn to the actors and say, tell me, show me, what do you think? Show me. Or we'll turn to the crew and say, no, don't do anything with the cameras. They'll show us. Let's just see. Stephen Frears is very like that. And I guess I certainly had my own way of doing things, but largely supported, encouraged by some of the things that I have found to be beneficial. But also, as an actress, you do learn quite quickly what is simply not useful from a director.
What's not useful?
A director who doesn't know what they want.
Okay.
And you know that a director doesn't know what they want when they go take after take after take after take, and the direction is very unspecific and meandering.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes they'll say, "Oh, just try something different," or "Just be you, just be." And you think, well, and suddenly you're all out to sea and totally detached from whatever your original instinct might have been. Strangely, that does happen.
Just be you is a really
Annoying one.
uniquely bad piece of advice because you're literally there
to be someone else. Correct. So it's not helpful at all.
So you didn't tell Dame Helen Mirren, just be more like yourself.
100% no, never. Absolutely not. I mean, in terms of what kind of director am I can tell you that I was very positive all the time, and I'm very aware of bringing a degree of joy into the workplace, especially with something like this, where certainly in the back third of the story, like, it gets really sad. And a lot of our actors shared very private personal stories about their own experiences of loss. Johnny Flynn, for example, lost his father as a teenager. And there were things that for him were really hard. There were also other people on our acting team who had gone through loss and actually just really couldn't talk about what they had experienced, because some people can't find the words to describe how they feel. And also they don't want to talk about it again, because then they have to revisit their own real stuff.
Right.
And that's very, very hard to do too. So I tried to be a compassionate space holder, quite honestly, for everybody, and gave everybody the opportunity to say what they thought, to offer up an opinion, to change their minds, to make mistakes, to completely reboot the entire structure of a scene based on what suddenly happens in the moment. Because the thing is, when you have actors who are that brilliant and that prepared, oftentimes they will come into the room to shoot a scene and they will have had an overnight or sleepless night thought of, oh my God, it isn't what we discussed in rehearsal at all. And being a director who's completely ready to go, great, let's try something different. That mattered more than anything, especially when you've also got that many children on set.
Well, so now that you've made the film and it's about to come out, has the reason you decided to make it changed having made it?
No. Not at all.
So tell me why still, as I asked earlier, why you and Joe ran toward it. Why this?
It felt very available to us, I think. Of course, for myself, having
emotionally available?
Emotionally available. I think for myself, having lost my own mother, which to this day, like, takes my breath away that she still isn't here. I can't fathom how she isn't here. I think what it was more than anything was probably that because my son had crafted something that was so special, and all of these characters had their own story. I mean, they had their own storyline. They literally had a beginning, middle, and end journey that they each individually go on alongside their family members, but totally separately.
Yeah.
And that somehow, even though it's the matriarch who's slipping away, actually it's the family who are emotionally flatlining and have been for such a long time. And so there was something about me certainly wanting to, and I use the word protect my son because he's not someone who needs protecting. He's pretty solid in who he is as a person.
But he's still 21.
He is still 21. And I do know this industry, and I do know that it can be easy to lose one's grasp on what matters the most creatively. And so I certainly felt I wanted to preserve what he had created. And that meant that we were in lockstep pretty early on in terms of parts of the script that we knew we wanted to keep. And even Netflix, brilliant as they were, because they were very supportive of a first-time writer and a first-time director, sometimes they would give notes where we would think, well, that kind of is going to have a knock-on effect there if we actually take that note literally. So maybe we can, take part of it and implement it where possible. And there were some things we felt, okay, no, let's just leave that idea to one side. You have to get good at deciphering sort of what stays, what goes, and what notes you take and what notes you have to kind of just sidestep. But I think this story, I would have been heartbroken, actually, I think, if we'd ended up giving it to somebody else, because it just felt so special. It really felt very unique. I never would have done this, Sam, if I hadn't have felt actually equipped in terms of how to do that job. I don't do things by half. And I just wouldn't have done it if I hadn't have felt, okay, no, I think I know what I'm talking about.
I would say everything from directing to acting to your obsession with cold water swimming. There's nothing done half-heartedly.
No, there isn't.
And I want to talk about where that comes from. Because as you mentioned, you grew up in Reading in that 2 up, 2 down terrace house with windows that would rattle when the number 17 bus idled outside. Having spent the past year making this film and talking about what you just mentioned, what was home like?
It was really great.
What was Reading like back then?
Reading has always been a wonderfully multicultural town, and it still is. And so we grew up in a very diverse, inclusive environment, largely because of the actual environment we grew up in, but also because of how my parents were, very non-judgmental, robust socialists. So I grew up in a constant world that felt a little bit like a Mike Leigh movie in many ways, in terms of just the sort of social realism rhythm of our life. And so it was a happy home. We really didn't have anything, but we were happy.
And by anything, you mean money?
Money, like actual clothes, everything was hand-me-downs. I remember endlessly going to jumble sales and buying, new T-shirts for
the cars were often
10p.
secondhand.
Always secondhand. Always secondhand. Yeah. Oh God, it's quite amusing when I think about it. In fact, one of the cars we had so many holes in the floor that we would drop pennies as we were going along. We would drop pennies through the holes and then quickly jump up onto our knees to look out the back window to see if we could see the penny drop and roll along the road. Yeah. So I'm really not making any of this stuff up. It's quite hard for people to kind of comprehend that any of this is real when I say it.
No,
I think,
it's very easy for me to comprehend.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think because I speak well, that sounds like I'm sort of trained. But I'm going to tell you exactly why I speak well. So my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she was also an actress, and she was a trained actress, and she went to a very famous drama school in London called Italia Conti, and she was in the same year as Noel Coward. So she was taught to speak well. The fact that she grew up living above a pub and her parents were publicans is totally by the by. She was taught to speak well. So in turn, my mother and her 5 siblings could all speak well, and the mother tongue is very robust and gets handed down through generations. So we always spoke well, even though we had nothing. It's kind of mad.
What kind of kid were you? Would you create imaginary worlds for yourself?
Yes.
With your co-stars Corey and Dork?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
So Corey and Dork were my 2 imaginary friends, and they were really hilarious. I don't know why those were their names. I have no idea. I don't remember coming up with those names, but they were very funny, and they lived in a caravan, and they wore overalls, and they had hair like kind of unruly and sort of, desperately needed to be brushed. Probably needed their heads shaved.
You still remember what they looked like?
Oh yeah, it's very vivid to me. But I also strangely remember when I didn't need them anymore. I must have been about 11. I must have been about 11 or 12 and thinking, oh yeah, we haven't been on any adventures recently, or maybe it's time for you to go off on your own. And I remember sending them off and then waving goodbye. I remember in my mind sending them off. Isn't that weird? So strange.
I mean,
I had an active imagination, but so did my siblings. So we were constantly, playing dress up, putting on shows, dancing, You know, we had a record player and we had two records. One of them was Matchstick Men and Matchstick Cats and Dogs. And the other one was, I think someone had given us, or we'd bought it in a jumble sale. It was Milli Vanilli. I mean, how hilarious is that? And those are the only two records that we had. But we would still put them on. We would dance and dance.
Did you send them off because you were all right?
Yeah, I was okay.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that I don't remember ever not being okay.
Okay.
You know, typically I think children have imaginary friends when they're like lonely. I have 3 great siblings. So I don't know, but I did exist. I did exist in a sort of a really fun imaginary world. I didn't have a great time at school. It wasn't horrific.
Yeah.
I was bullied. I was teased.
For what?
Well, just like I was a little bit chubby, I guess. And, you know, I just was different. But somehow I was aware that I was a bit different. It's funny. I mean, you know, believe me, if I had some kind of like hidden traumatic experiences that had impacted on me enormously, I would have shared them by now in my life. But I really didn't have that, you know. But I was different, definitely. And we all were growing up, for sure. But my parents were great, you know. And when I think about my mum and dad as a couple and as a family unit that we were, they really were great. One thing they never did was criticize us. And I think that's really significant because I think parents forget that children will take criticism to heart, even if they're flippant, nonchalant comments. They stick to the sides badly. And my parents were very, very good at not doing that.
Your father was an aspiring actor who would make ends meet doing odd jobs like selling Christmas trees.
Yeah.
I think he was a postman at one point.
He was postman for a long time.
He told The Guardian, I always had long periods between acting jobs, and these downtimes were particularly difficult periods in my life. What did those rough patches look like to you?
I do remember my dad having sort of low moods. I do remember that. But he wasn't a depressive.
Right.
And actually now, like, even describing my dad as having low moods seems so strange because he's larger than life. Every day he sings, every day he dances, every day, you know, he tells me he's getting ready to live. Getting ready to live, baby. He's 86.
Did seeing him as a kid perform intermittently, did that give you a template or a model for becoming an actor? Did that
Not
inspire you to
really.
do it?
Not really, because my dad's work was very few and far between. I think I actually only ever saw him on stage once.
Okay.
Strangely, but there were always costumes around, and so I the kind of the performing side of life and the kind of colourful side of what he loved to do felt very present, even though we actually didn't get to see him do it that often, you know. But my mother, even though she never acted, and when she was alive, she would say to me, you must tell the journalists, I never acted, I would have hated to act, and I wasn't an actress because they keep saying that I was an actress, and I wasn't. I was a mother. So she was very...
I told you, we're about getting it right here.
Oh my God. So my mum was very, very shy, but she herself came from more of an acting family even than I do.
Yeah, there's a vaudeville background, right?
On my dad's side, actually,
Okay.
there's a vaudeville background. On my mother's side, there's this sort of more classically trained mother, as in her mother, Linda Bridges. She was classically trained.
It's amazing, like, thinking about your upbringing. At 17, your father drove you to the train station so that you could go and audition for Peter Jackson's Heavenly Creatures.
Yes, yeah.
Do you remember that car ride?
Well, actually, he drove me all the way to London because it was on that occasion... And it was the only time he's ever driven me all the way to an audition. But on that occasion, I actually didn't have enough money for the train fare. And it was going to work out cheaper to pay for the petrol for him to drive me than to have paid for the train. But I do remember that car ride. Yeah, I remember it really vividly.
What did he say?
Well, I was holding a film script in my hand. You know, a film script is anything from, let's say, 98 pages to kind of 124 pages being on the kind of longer side, unless it's Titanic, in which case slightly longer, or anything written by Aaron Sorkin, in which case definitely longer, definitely longer. But I was holding a film script. I'd never held a film script before in my life. And it felt really heavy and there were a lot of words to read. Actually, I was always quite a slow reader. And I remember saying to my dad, my God, Dad, imagine if I got this part. Like, just imagine, like, if I actually got it and I was in a film. And he turned to me and he just said, you'll get it. And I don't know why, but he just seemed very sure. Don't know why. And he just said, you'll get it.
Why do you think?
I don't know. My dad did believe in me. And he always let me know that he believed in me.
Even despite the fact that he himself had these dreams that did not work out the way he wanted. He had like this absolute belief in you.
Yes, he did. He did. And we have always had a very close relationship, my father and I, and we still really, really, really do. I think we're kindred spirits in many ways.
Well, how do you mean?
Well, just that we're quite similar, energetically quite similar, same attitude to life. You know, we can tease one another very freely. You know, he could never do anything to offend me because I understand him so well. Do you know what I mean? He's a really eccentric guy. But he can also like certainly when we were growing up, like he could be a bit, we would describe him as like, you know, a bit of a grumpy old sod, you know. But then again, I think it's back to that kind of like slightly low mood. He had a really serious accident, my father, when I was 11 years old. And that really impacted on his self-esteem.
It was his foot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. And that is one part of our film that is correct. That is correct. It's the only part that my son directly took from real life because he's grown up with that.
It's the opening shot of the movie.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So my father, when I was 11 years old, my brother was 5, my younger sister was 8, and my older sister was 14. He suffered a terrible accident on a boat, on a canal boat, going very slowly through some French waterways, and he was helping a friend to move a very large boat a great distance, and he stepped into the coil of the rope, and the rope pulled his foot off completely, and by a total miracle it was put back on. And that was one thing that my son did include in our film, and that is part of the backstory of what's happened to Bernie, the father, played by Timothy Spall. And so so I think that did impact for sure. Well, of course it impacted on my father in terms of his confidence carrying on as an actor, because he just felt so vulnerable, and he had a limp for a very long time, quite a pronounced one, which over years was corrected somewhat. But we're very lucky to have him. I mean, it's a miracle he's even alive.
And even in spite of that, he still had this absolute belief in you.
Absolute belief in me, and great love for all of it, you know. And he very freely tells me that he's proud, you know, which I'm endlessly grateful for.
Is that hard for British people?
No, it's not hard for British people, but I will say that I think it's considerably easier for Americans.
It may be too easy for Americans.
Well, I love that though. I really do. I mean, I lived in New York for 10 years, and I really was struck by how effervescent Americans are and open with expressions of pride. I've always been very inspired by that. It's a part of my life in New York that I've really tried to hang on to.
So when we come back, why don't we talk about some of the films that your father is probably very proud of? In your early performances, I read that you would, quote, rummage around my emotional toolbox and pull something out. Fuck me. I read that you would, quote, in your early performances.
Okay. You're neurodivergent, I can tell.
And you?
Probably.
Okay.
I'm like trying to figure it out.
How can you tell?
I can tell because your desire to get things spot on is really heightened. But also you care about minute detail, which I am similar.
Okay.
But I haven't actually done an assessment, but I think I have to soon.
Neither have I, and I've been thinking I should do one too.
You're definitely ADHD, 1,000%. It's brilliant. It's a great strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this, for the record, this is a compliment to me.
Oh, please. I mean it as a compliment. It's a great thing. My God, the most interesting people I know in the world are ADHD. Okay, go again.
No, we're going to keep that in for sure.
Okay.
For sure. So how did you learn that you were neurodivergent? Oh, Kate Winslet told me. Okay, let me try to do my job. In your early performances, I read that you would, quote, rummage around my emotional toolbox and pull out something that had actually happened to me.
Mm.
So in something like, I don't know, Sense and Sensibility,
Mm.
what would that process look like? Like, talk me through how you would create a character in your mind when you started out.
Well, when I think about, like, to answer your question specifically about Sense and Sensibility, I think about Marianne Dashwood. You know, I was quite a sort of romantic free thinker. And so I guess I relied on those sides of myself. And I must have just, I don't know, somehow used that in the playing of Marianne Dashwood, who was, to all intents and purposes, very, very different to me. But one thing that I have figured out for myself is that so much of it is about minimizing the fear factor. So anything to make me feel grounded and to get myself to the point where I believed, no, I was the only person who could play this part.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why they've asked me to do it. And I'm just going to, damn well, smash it out the park, and I'm going to fucking do it. And I'm not going to make them feel like they need to fire me. Because most actors, well, certainly for me, when I was younger, I would just think, well, I'm going to get fired.
Okay, so we do suffer from the same affliction.
Okay, fine. So anything to kind of make myself feel that I had total ownership over my character, and I would just do it. But then as I've gotten older, I think that's probably changed a little bit, because I think as that emotional toolbox, as I clearly once must have described it, as that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you can't carry that shit around all the time.
Right.
But at the same time, the great journey of life makes certain lived experiences much more freely available.
But the self-possession to know that I am the only person that can play this part.
It's all a mind fuck, I tell you.
When you auditioned for Titanic,
Yeah.
it went very well.
Yeah.
But James Cameron was still skeptical.
Yeah,
that he should cast you. Did you write him a letter or a card?
I don't quite remember. I don't quite remember. Someone tells me that I wrote him a letter which I signed from Rose or something like that.
With one single rose.
I actually honestly don't recall doing that, but it's possible I did.
And apparently there's a phone call to his car.
A phone call to his car?
This is what it was reported.
Oh my God, that I don't remember.
Where
oh my
you
God,
said,
what did I say?
You said I'm the only one that can play Rose. I don't even know why you're seeing anyone else.
I don't remember doing that. That definitely sounds like extremely pushy and quite desperate, and I don't think I would have done that.
You know
I honestly don't have a memory of that.
It sounds ambitious.
It's
in a good way.
Well, good for me if I did do that, but I really don't think I did that.
Okay.
But I don't remember
But you
it.
believed it was...
I have a pretty good memory. In fact, I have an exceptional memory. I don't recall that.
Yeah, I've heard your long memory is great. Your recent memory...
My recent memory is definitely... Well, so my recent memory is annoying because it's stupid things like I will put something somewhere to keep it safe in a very safe space that only I will remember where it is. And then I forget.
Wow.
I know.
This is really upsetting.
I know.
I really don't like being seen in this way.
Sorry. I'm nailing you, aren't I?
Yeah.
But this is the other thing about being a director. You actually do have to be able to intuit what a person is like quite quickly, because it absolutely supports a way of communicating with that actor in a meaningful way and in an economic way. Because on a set like Goodbye June, when you've got 35 days, I had Helen Mirren for 16 days. She's playing the title role, okay? And I've got all these children, 7 children, and all of these wonderful actors. I had to absolutely make every single actor feel as though I knew them and understood them. And in order to do that, you actually have to do it. You can't just make them feel that way. It has to be a real thing. I have been able to get quite good over time at being really intuitive about people. And it's also a self-protection thing too.
Yes. Well, again, if I'm intuiting correctly, from the jump, you really wanted this. You wanted this career.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
fought
yeah.
for these parts.
Oh, yeah.
James Cameron said, even then, as a young woman, he saw you as, quote, a force of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone projects that kind of energy and that kind of power to the people around her, it's difficult to see when they're in trouble emotionally.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Did you feel like
Well-
a force of nature after the world saw Titanic?
No. After the world saw Titanic, no, I did not feel like a force of nature. I have been described thus by other people, this force of nature thing, which I take as a real compliment because, I am like that. I'm very much let's go and meet the world and look at this day. And I'm just somebody who gets up and out and gets on with things. But after Titanic came out, it was quite a strange time. Because I couldn't function like a normal person anymore. And being a normal person, being somebody in the world, matters to me enormously. I couldn't live without that. I couldn't. And I have actively taken steps to make sure that I can maintain that way of living, that way of being a parent, that way of proceeding through life.
What happened in that period that you wanted to move away from?
I became really very famous very quickly, and I found it quite distressing.
Which parts?
Well, I just couldn't walk to the grocery store without being followed. I couldn't buy things without the press going into the shop and bribing the shopkeeper to tell them what I had bought so they could try and invent some kind of diet that I was allegedly on.
There was a big obsession about dieting.
I was, and I will happily say this, I was actively bullied by mainstream media in the UK. Some would say possibly even in the US as well, but I was less aware of that because we didn't have the internet in those days. But I was treated very unkindly in a way that I just feel so grateful that other young women aren't treated that way now.
Reading about this tabloid obsession with body image, the constant dialogue about how a woman should present herself, it's not like that's gone away.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't gone away.
But the vitriol of that era is not something I really lived through or ingested. And I certainly didn't experience it in the way that you intimately did and were forced to be put through. How did you grapple with that?
Well, I mean, it definitely took its toll. It definitely made me really self-critical. But hey, I very lucky. I had a really great family, good friends, normal people, who some just got me through it. Just by being present and being real in my life. And also, I had the good sense to know that I loved acting. And that the most important thing in terms of opportunity was only to pursue things that I really, really wanted to do. No matter, in spite of what people might have thought, in spite of what people may have wanted me to do or been telling me to do.
What did people want you to do?
Big films straight away after Titanic. This is your moment, It might only come along once. And I remember thinking, well, it might only come along once, but I've got to protect my mental health here. Now, that term mental health is only something really, I think, well, certainly in the UK anyway, since COVID, we're using that description of a person's sense of well-being in a much freer and appropriate way. We simply didn't have those words available, I mean, certainly in the UK, oh God, what's the matter with you? You're depressed. Get over it. It was almost criticized if somebody was down or feeling, like they couldn't face the day.
Did you feel that?
Yeah, I had a couple of moments. I did. I had days where I just thought, I just want them to go away. And I couldn't walk out the front door. But then the thing that saved me, I think, was not only my instinct for protecting myself creatively and making choices about roles that would make me happy, as opposed to make me money, quite honestly. And then I was very fortunate because I became a mother when I was really young. And so all that shit just evaporated. And I was, blessed to be taking care of this gorgeous little baby.
Earlier when we talked about your need to direct in order to change the culture of the industry, like so that women would have people in their corner, so that they don't fear reprisal. In making Titanic, but really any of those films of that era, what do you wish you could have asked for?
What do I wish I could have asked for? Equal pay. I mean, it's a pretty obvious one, that, and I still feel uncomfortable talking about it because it's a massive conversation that one day we will for sure have. I don't know, maybe I'm still waiting for somebody else to blow the lid off it first. And it has been somewhat, but it still exists. It's quite bad.
I mean, it's very bad.
It's very, very, very fucking bad. And actually, the number of times I've had to advocate for myself in that regard, people wouldn't even believe me. So there's no point talking about it.
Can I stop here? This is the second time you said people won't believe you. I want to tell you, I am going to believe you.
I know you would believe me, but you can't change perceptions of other people around what it must be like to be a charmed, successful actress. I am so blessed and I have no complaints. Actually,
no one's questioning that.
No, but the reality is there are things about this industry that are still profoundly imbalanced. So to answer your question, that's one thing I would go back and change. It's one thing I would still change. I do wish there had been more protection of young women on set when it came to nudity. That's something that I feel I learned how to take care of myself in those situations in a way that I never should have had to learn how to take care of myself to such an extent. And I don't know that I was even very good at protecting myself. Not really.
Why do you say that?
Well, because I just think that I felt like I had to, you can't be difficult. When you're a young actress, don't be difficult, learn your lines, don't be late, don't be difficult, And so in one's effort to always be the people pleaser, and I think maybe there's a part of me that is still that way, but now I actually want to please people because I want people to feel happy and comfortable in a working environment that largely I'm in charge of dictating that energy and that atmosphere. So it's different now. But then it was about pleasing people because God forbid one should, get a bad reputation because then you're struck off the list straight away. I mean, cancel culture's existed for a lot longer than I think people really think.
It's interesting that we only heard about cancel culture once men started getting canceled.
And I think now, now I feel much more confident that if I see bad behavior, I would call it out. Whereas in those days, I would witness bad behavior and just think, oh my God, is this really what it's like? It's, and I feel annoyed at myself for that I didn't have more of a voice from a younger age. It's taken a long time to earn that voice, for sure.
That bothers you?
It bothers me. It bothers me because I feel like I could have buddied up with other young actresses and been singing from the same song sheet in a way that probably would have helped us all out a little bit. But now I feel very grateful to have the voice that I do because I absolutely always use it to advocate for others, especially young women coming into the film industry, being able to say to them, listen, if you don't like that, you just say, no, that's not appropriate. Please give me a minute. And then you basically phone me up and I tell you what to do, and that's what I do.
After the whirlwind of that period, You told the New York Times, "It sounds a little mystical, but I had to look after my soul." How did you go about doing that?
I took jobs that were tiny. I remember thinking, hang on a second, I don't know how to be famous, but also I still don't know how to act. Like, just because I had done a handful of films, it didn't necessarily mean that I was going to be asked back to the party time and time again. You know, I was still working on being a person who would get to consistently do this job because I love it. I really do love it. I love acting. Turns out I absolutely love directing too, more than I ever would have imagined. But I think what I did was just reminded myself that I still had a lot to learn, and that I could only do that if I was alongside people who would enrich my life as an actress in a collaborative way, telling stories that mattered to me, that I cared about, and playing characters that I really wanted to play. Somehow I was able to really dig into that and nourish my soul in that regard. So I suppose that's probably what I meant by saying, you know, I had to take care of my soul. And it was quite an unusual thing for an actress who was suddenly seemingly being offered the world on a plate because I had been in Titanic. But, you know, I've never liked doing things that people expect me to do.
One of my favorites of yours, talk about unexpected choices, is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Written by Charlie Kaufman, directed by Michel Gondry. Was that a professional and personal turning point for you?
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, but both of those things. I think on a personal level, I don't know. I felt some sense of validation that I could do other things. Because there was no reason at all for Michel Gondry to have asked me to play that part and to have seen sides of me that might lend themselves to playing Clementine Krasinski.
I guess it's hard to tell watching Sense and Sensibility.
Well, yes, and Titanic. Like, why would anyone think that I could suddenly go and play some wild American woman?
Long Island accent,
woof, and all those different hair colors. So I felt so uplifted and invigorated by that opportunity. I can't tell you, like, it was just fantastic. It was just fantastic. And as an experience, playing that character and making that film was so interesting.
How so?
Well, just Michelle's a brilliant filmmaker. Charlie's an extraordinary writer. Like, just everything about the words that fell out of my mouth and being supported to play that role in a very eccentric, wild way. I just felt it was really invigorating, and I learned a lot.
How did you get the accent down?
Fuck me. It was a brilliant dialect coach. Oh. So
I was waiting for you to curse on this podcast.
When I did Titanic, I was very fortunate that a dialect coach was employed to work with me, and her name is Susan Hegarty, and she's absolutely wonderful, and I still work with her to this day. And I also have worked with her on films where I've been required to do non-American accents, such as The Reader and Steve Jobs, for example. I've still worked with Susan because we just have such an understanding. But she has a phenomenal ear, and the way in which she teaches just really works for me. So, I mean, the Long Island nature of it, that was a very hard accent to do, actually. Not as hard as the accent I had to do in Steve Jobs, which was the only time I've done an accent that actually made me throw things across a room because I found it so hard.
Yeah. How can you show me, like, how do you do it?
Oh my God, I wish the listeners could see what you just did with your face. That was quite funny.
They're going to be able to see it.
Okay.
Was it a dumb look?
No, it was just like a really tell me. Like,
yeah, well,
how do you do it?
I have a lot of, I've tried to ask some smart questions today.
You've asked great questions.
How do you do it? I don't understand.
What, an accent?
Yeah, show me one, like Eternal Sunshine or hell, Revolutionary Road, Mildred Pierce, Contagion, Labor Day, a lot of different American accents. What was the one that was the hardest, and how the hell did you do it?
The one that was the hardest, the hardest accent of all was the one that I had to do in Steve Jobs, because the real Joanna Hoffman, who I play in that movie, she was Polish-Armenian.
It was an amalgamation.
Yes, but the American that she learned for the first time, she learned in Buffalo, and so it was a very complex accent that she had. That was the hardest, and in actual fact, her real voice was relatively high pitched, and I had to find a way of avoiding that, because I felt that it would have been unsustainable for the length of film that was, to play a character who really kind of spoke up in her nose like that. Anyway, so I didn't want to do that. So I had to find something else that worked for her. But the hardest accent of all was definitely, hardest American accent of all was definitely Mare of Easttown. And it was the hardest because, and I would say this to Brad Inglesby, I would say, do you understand that I have to do this like so well? I have to do it way better than all of the other actors, because the audience is going to be listening out for me to fuck it up. So I have to do it so perfectly that it disappears.
The floor is yours.
Well, you forgot the oregano. It was a very difficult accent to do. And also it had to sort of occupy, this is going to sound so crazy, but it had to occupy, the voice itself had to occupy a place in my own body that was, like, Mare Sheehan, she, like, emotionally, she was not in a good place. And that's not me, I'm, so I had to find that sadness in me, and the stuff that she emotionally buried just to be able to function in daily life. I've never experienced something as tragic as what she had gone through, so that was part of it as well. And with learning an accent, it's not just a voice that you put on. It's much more than that. It's because you completely change the muscular structure of your mouth and your face. So there are some brilliant actors who are great at doing American accents, but sometimes you can see them doing it because their muscular structure isn't quite where it should be, and you can see that they're British in spite of the fact that they sound really, great. You can see them doing the voice, therefore you can hear them doing it. And actually the trick is not getting caught out and having anyone hear you do it. So you forgot the oregano. That O sound is very hard to do. And if you do it too much, it sounds Southern. I spent a lot of time with a female police officer, actually, who was from, in fact, she was from Chester County, and working alongside her, I found to be enormously helpful, just because she sounded quite a lot like how I wanted Mare to sound. And again, this work with the dialect coach, relentless work that drove me fucking crazy.
Well, speaking of Mare, we talked earlier about that emotional toolbox and how you would mine something that actually happened to you to play these characters.
Yeah. What did I do on Mare?
Well, it stopped working at a certain point, you said.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't always work, because
Right.
I don't always have the stuff that a character might have gone through.
So where do you go, I suppose, like in yourself to create these characters whole cloth?
I mean, the most immediate action is, I don't fucking know. Like, I just want to respond by saying to you, there's a part of me that feels like I don't know. I don't know how I do all of that. I don't know that any actor really knows how they do it.
And that's a totally fair response.
Well, I just don't know what else to kind of say. But with Mare, what I did was I really had to. I had to properly build that trauma, that loss, losing her son to suicide. I invented it. I thought about it a lot. I visualized the experience a lot. I spent time with that young actor who actually played Kevin, her son. I spent time with him, and he was actually a very deep thinking, emotional young man, and he had a very beautiful face. And actually, you set up these triggers for yourself. You create trauma, you invent it. Like, we're willful. We sort of do, you do things to change the way your brain works so that once you've laid your triggers down and the scene is happening, you just hope to God that you've set yourself up properly so that you can respond to what's in front of you. And actually, I got to a point with I couldn't even look at that young actor. I couldn't even look at him. I would just fall apart. I couldn't do it. And it's only in recent years, actually, that I can now talk about Mare without getting very upset because it got stuck in me. It was very scary. It's quite weird to be an actor and have these things get stuck to the sides, especially when you really don't want them to get stuck to the sides. You'd quite like to just go back to your life.
I haven't stopped thinking about the show since I first saw it.
Mm.
It's stuck to the sides of a viewer.
Yeah, of many people.
I could hardly imagine what it was like to make it.
Yeah, it was pretty full on.
Are you able to watch a scene from it?
I can sometimes, yeah. But it depends what scene, because then I might get like all fucked up again. But sometimes, yeah.
I have one.
I know you do. I know you're going to show me the scene, aren't you, in the paediatrician's office in episode 2, or when she's sitting with the grief counsellor in episode 5. I'm very happy to watch it, but you will see I will have an immediate reaction. It's torture being on this show. Go on then. Yeah, I can even... go on then. Oh, fuck me. See, I don't even look like myself. It's very strange when I look at even my face looks different. I know exactly what you're doing here. Yep, storm must be the storm. Oh, it's episode 6.
I don't even remember driving home. I found him in the attic, hanging from one of the beams. He'd gotten a tow rope from the garage. I cut him down. I remember I tried to catch him, but he was heavy. He was so heavy.
Oh.
Held him in my arms till the paramedics came, and then they had to pull him away from me. Mare, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, God.
I'm so sorry. Do you still live in the same house? Yeah. Have you been able to go back up to the attic since? No. We don't. No one goes up there.
Yeah. I still have to stop myself getting upset when I watch that scene. I mean, I don't watch it, actually, only in moments like that when people often ask me to. But I remember shooting that scene. That actress who played the grief counselor, God, she was so wonderful. And one thing that I am aware that I am able to do, I can multitask. I can multitask, like actually multitask, meaning do several things at once. But as an actress, I can multitask with multiple thoughts. And actually, when we were shooting that scene, I had a friend back in England who was going through something quite upsetting. And, you would think that I would have said to her, look, I'm doing this difficult scene today. Let me call you tomorrow, or let's check in at the weekend. No, somehow between takes, I was checking in on this friend because there must have been something about her needing me and me engaging in this very difficult emotional thing that she was dealing with, which was nothing to do with Mare and had no similarity even. But my own perhaps subconscious desire to almost emotionally jack myself up, charge myself up, that's something that in recent years I've realized that I have a tendency to do, which seems insane to me. But I think it's something about existing in a space that feels frightening, so that emotions become very real, really available, and quite loud and present. And I was very, very fortunate because the actress who played the grief counsellor, whose name is escaping me right now, but she was wonderful. She was incredibly, incredibly supportive and brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
What do you make of that tendency? You said only in recent years I realized.
What do I make of it?
That
I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be sad and I would get bored if there wasn't a part of myself that kept sort of organically evolving as a creative person in the world, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. I don't entirely understand myself all the time, you know, and that's okay.
You knew that I was going to play that scene.
Yeah, because you could see that it's very hard to act. Very hard to act that scene. Yeah.
When you were filming the show, I read that, speaking of Joe, your children would come up to you and say, Kevin's not real.
Oh, my God.
And neither is Mare. It's just pretend.
Just pretend.
But can I ask you... You're already laughing at the question before I ask it.
I'm laughing because both of my children have now turned into actors. And now I can say to him, can you believe that you would tease me and say, Kevin's not real? He's like, oh, and he puts his arms around me and he goes, oh my God, Mum. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever said that. How did you not just like punch me in the face? And of course, my daughter, the same. She was very fortunate to have been cast as Liesel in the Phoenician Scheme, directed by Wes Anderson, with Benicio, who was wonderful with her and really took care of her. And so they both know what it means to literally transport yourself into the heart and mind of another character and to do whatever it takes to make that role believable and convincing to an audience. And they also know that it hurts. They know that. And so I feel grateful, not only that they're good people and good at what they do, but I feel grateful that I've had such intense experiences because I now know how to help them come out the other side. Like sometimes literally saying to them, don't do anything today, it's fine. You don't have to expect anything of yourself. I'm just going to bring you things and you're just going to stay right there and watch some shit TV. Here you are. Like, no, because I never had that. I never had that when I was younger.
Well, you didn't have a lot.
No, I didn't. But I also tell you, I wouldn't have even had the words to know how to ask for support.
Different time,
you know, put up, shut up, get on with it, you know?
You know, when you finish the show, it's my understanding that you went to therapy and you said in one interview, I had to let it go, but I just couldn't. And I had to work out some things. What did you feel like you had to work out, and where are you now, 4 years removed?
I'm trying to sort of move on from it quickly because if we talk about it too much, I will absolutely... It's terrible. I was introduced to a really interesting neuroscientist who works with people who get gripped by trauma. And I just happened to meet this guy and he happened to say to me, how do you do it? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, how do you do your job? You know, how do you move on and let it go? And I've always wondered how actors are able to do that. And I sort of said, well, I don't know. You know, you kind of just, you know, hope that it will fade after a while. And he said, yeah, but you do know that it only takes 6 weeks to send the same message to your brain about an emotional frame of mind until you actually change your brain chemistry. He said, so, and I said, well, actually, it's interesting that you say that, because when I did Mare of Easttown, I kind of got gripped in this trauma. He said, I'm not surprised. He said, and how are you doing now? And just someone asking me how I was doing reduced me to a puddle. So I think I did do a bit of therapy. I didn't do much, but I did enough that I felt, I just felt kind of better aligned emotionally. But also I had to kind of learn how to, I can't really let myself get so affected in ways that were so long lasting, because it wasn't kind of good for everybody. Like, it wasn't great. And I think I've learned some actual specific ways in which to be a bit more boundaried with my own emotions going forward. Even Goodbye June was extremely, extremely hard. And there were, at face value, many things about the character I was actually playing in Goodbye June that one could say, well, is that quite similar to you? But there were so many things about her that were nothing like me at all. Really nothing like me. And actually, I thought that I thought that I wouldn't get so affected by playing her, but I for sure did. But yeah.
Did directing help you get out of that period?
I think it did. I think it helped me, and I think it also...
Because like the act of having to show up for all of these people.
Yeah. To a certain extent, with how I wanted to shoot the film, I did have to hold my nerve quite a lot, because I didn't feel fear in terms of not having a ton of coverage in the first third of our story. It was a deliberate choice I had wanted to make, which I worked with my cinematographer in making sure we could pull this off. But even he was a bit like, oh, you just need to make sure you've got things to cut to. And I would say, I know, but you cannot show tension and actual space between characters on screen. You can't show that tension and space unless you actually stand back and let the audience observe it. And so I wanted for us to earn our close-ups. And we don't go really close into someone's face until Connor, played by Johnny Flynn, reads that beautiful E. Cummings poem to June, played by Helen Mirren. And then suddenly we are right in Helen Mirren's eyes. And it's the first time that I chose to let the audience observe that June does know what's happening to her. She's known for a long time. And she also is expressing the sadness at what she's leaving behind. And we get to see her love for her children begin right there in that moment when she's experiencing so much overflowing love for her son, Connor, who's probably her favored child.
Before we go, you know how you said earlier that that you want to be someone that a younger actress can call when something goes awry, and that in directing you want to change the culture that is so male dominated. I was wondering, with this movie, Goodbye June, and Mare of Easttown, Lee, you produced both of them. Do you see this work, this new chapter, as a kind of refutation of the era and culture that attempted to define you early on?
I'm really thinking about my answer to that. Yeah, I guess I do. We like to pigeonhole actresses, and we don't like it when they go off-piste and they say things unexpected or controversial. And we certainly don't really like it when they physically change their appearance, because we feel this need to comment on it all the time. I don't know if you've noticed that, in the way that we really don't particularly do that with the men. But then if the men lose shit tons of weight or gain shit tons of weight, ooh, applause, applause.
I've noticed.
Right. So with the women, we are still just treated differently, and people actually use different words in conversation with us, whether that's on a red carpet or in a filmmaking scenario, like for me in the edit, sometimes filtering things said to me by other women. If you just maybe use a bit more confidence in your cut. Don't think you say that if I was a man. It's like staggering. And one thing I know that I have never lacked is confidence, because it's the thing that has literally got me through, and it's why I've survived as long as I have and continue to not just survive, but I hope now really truly thrive, because I love this job. I'm still busy like redefining myself. Like, I've still got so much to do. People just don't know the stuff I've still got to do. I've got so much to do. Very busy.
Yeah. How do you want to define yourself? On your terms, by you, not someone else, not this kind of era of the press that you came up in. What do you, Kate Winslet, want in the future?
I still just want to be taken really seriously as a force to be reckoned with. And what I mean by that is that I feel that what I can creatively offer, I want to feel that that's open-ended and limitless, and experimental and inclusive and representative of who people truly are. I care about real people. I care about telling stories that people can relate to, that resonate in some way. I care about advocating for others, but that translates as well into creativity through the stories I'm telling, through characters I'm playing. I want for people to feel seen and heard and respected and acknowledged.
And for yourself?
I just want to keep going. I just love it. I just love it. I just always want to be doing it. I just absolutely love it. I saw Helen Mirren the other day. She's so hilarious. And she said to me, now, at the end, so when you get to the end of all this, you finished all the press, and I swear I thought she was going to say to me, go on a nice holiday. She says, you really must throw yourself into something straight away. You know that, don't you? You can't stop. You've got to keep going. Very important. You've got to jump right into something very challenging. I hope you're doing that. Are you doing that? And I felt bad to say to her, actually, no, I'm taking a small break. Oh, good. Okay. Well, where are you going? Anyway, so she was, but look at her. Helen is 80 years old, loves to work. It lifts her up. It inspires her. It challenges her all the time. She loves to be on set. That's me. So do I, in any capacity. Championing others for sure. Continuing to change the culture, elevating others, giving people opportunities where they still are waiting to have that first shot, not just as actors, but as crew members as well. That matters to me like more than I can possibly say. And that's also part of changing the culture.
My last question. This is totally random, but cold water swimming. I keep going back to this. The kind of person that puts themselves through that. What is that about?
I have never felt so alive as I do when I step out of cold water. And it's such a great way of being able to tell yourself that you can do something, even though your body is saying, don't do it. It's going to be cold. It's going to be horrible. It's going to feel nasty. But knowing that you can never regret it, ever. It's a thrill. It's properly a thrill. Initially, you think, oh my God, how am I going to do all of that? And then I feel like, look at me now. I did it. I did it all. I was across everything, did everything that was asked of me, delivered on time, didn't drop a single scene, even got extra stuff. Everyone came out happy. The children had an amazing time. It was like they were on a 35-day extended play date. They loved it. It was wonderful.
Well, I just want to say, as we leave, I want to thank you for all the time and for being as open as you have been.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
And apparently we're both neurodivergent?
I think we are.
Okay.
Maybe we should get assessed together.
Yeah, we'll do that. That'll be part 2.
Let's do it.
Kate Winslet, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
That was so good. That was so great.